uniform personnel. Attention! Freeze heads. Arms. Drum major, by your command. Post. Colors. Dress. Colors. Honor guard. Present. Arms.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Arm! Honor guard. Left. Face.
Honor guard. On the tap. Wait. March.
You may be seated. Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to here today. And on behalf of the Schwingel family, I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to join us in this celebration of Scott Schwingel. Now, we all know Scott. We know that he is by no means an ordinary guy. And as you can tell by this ceremony, this is not going to be an ordinary ceremony. And while we will honor Scott with some of the solemn traditions of the fire service, some of which you have already seen, the procession of the engines, the honor guard, the bagpipes, we will also be doing a flag ceremony and a bell ceremony. We do this because Scott has earned it. We do this because Scott is the truest of heroes. And while I think sometimes that term is a little overused, in this case today, there is no question that Scott has truly earned that title. In fact, he embodies it. But this celebration is going to be a little bit different today. It's going to be a little bit unique. It was put together to be what we think Scott would believe was the perfect day. Surrounded here by his family and friends, with all of his brother and sister firefighters, almost none of whom had to wear a Class A dress uniform today, because we know that Scott was not about dressing it up. He was about getting the job done. So we do that in his honor. I think if we actually did it the way Scott wanted it, we'd all be here in jeans and t-shirts. But I think that's coming later on today. I know that's what I plan to be by the end of the day. Today's about hanging out at the racetrack with your friends. It's about food, drink, music, and of course, getting to jump into a race car and take Scott around his victory lap. I think this would be a day that for Scott would definitely be filled with smiles. Now, I think normally the correct way to depict a ceremony like this is to call it a celebration of Scott's life, but I don't think that that's the proper characterization for what we want to do today. At a memorial, when you speak of someone as a life that has passed, it almost has a finite meaning, like something stopped, like something is going to fade away. And that's not the case with Scott, and that's not why we're here today. Scott is more than a legacy. He was a good man, a strong character and conviction. We all know him as a good husband, a good father, a good friend, a brother firefighter, and a servant to people who are in need. And when you have people like that in your life, people like Scott, it's more than just a relationship. They rub off on us. They help shape who we are. And by that, they actually give a part of themselves to us, the best parts of themselves that we take with us. And then we choose to pass them down to the next generation. And in that way, we never really lose Scott. He just continues to live with us and through us. So for that reason, this is going to be more than just an event to recognize Scott's life. This is to recognize the continuum of what Scott Schwingel means to all of us. The love that he shared, the brave commitment to serving others, and the example he set to all of us in his life. Scott was gentle with people, but he was fierce with his principles. Always willing to work, not complaining when things got tough. He did his fair share, and then he would always do just a little bit more. And when it came to fighting cancer, his character never faltered. He was not looking for somebody to blame. He was never afraid to fight the good fight. Forget about complaining. He always gave 100%. In short, he showed us all what it means to be buckshot strong. And if that's the definition of buckshot strong, then I think now, more than ever, in our homes and our families and our country, we could use a whole lot more of it. And so this is the day where we take that part of Scott with us to make ourselves better, to make our families better, to make our lives better. And it starts right here. So we'd like to continue with this ceremony next by inviting up Terry Kuba, who is a best friend to Scott, a brother to Stephanie, and an uncle to all of the kids. So if I could ask him to come up to share some thoughts with Scott.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Terry. To the Schwingel family, I'm known as Homer. Scott and I have been best friends for about 30 years, and I loved him like a brother. On behalf of all of the Schwingel family, I want to thank everybody for coming today to pay their last respects. I know that he's smiling down on us on this beautiful day. It's so cool that we are able to do this here at this track where we had so much fun over the years. I really want to thank everybody who helped pull this together, because this is really the perfect venue for celebrating and honoring Scott. Like many of you, I stand in front of you with a broken heart because I miss Scott every day. But I'm here to celebrate and honor him, my friend, my brother. And I want to be a part of sharing the stories that everybody hopefully will share today. In our hearts, we all have our own personal memories of Scott. For me, my memories are all involved with all of the different adventures that we've had over the years. All the best times that our families spent together. Camping trips, going out to the sand dunes, road trips in the motorhome to Mexico and Santa Maria and Mammoth and all the nonsense and craziness that came along with all of us being put together in small quarters for a period of time. Memories of all of the races that we went to over the years. Scott was a huge fan of racing. He was if you didn't know it, in his younger days, he was a badass in a go-kart. And we had really some of the best times ever, you know, at him racing on the dirt tracks here locally. I remember him riding his three-wheeler out in the dunes. And, the first time I went out to the dunes with the family, and I barely knew him, and we rode in this big group of people, and they took me out in the middle of nowhere. I'd never been in a sand dune before, and all of a sudden there was this huge wall, and this guy just takes off on his three-wheeler, and he's hauling up the dune, and he gets about 3/4 of the way up and decides that's not good enough, and he's going to go sideways. So he goes about 1/4 of a mile sideways playing around. That was Scott. He lived his life full blast, and he had a lot of fun. We drank a lot of beer. We had a lot of good times together. My memories will also be centered around things like Thursday pizza nights in the past, family barbecues, quieter times, you know, sitting up at the top of a sand dune, just kind of soaking in the whole world, talking and telling stories around the campfire. We had a lot of campfires over the years. We took our campfires seriously, and we had a lot of fun between midnight and 5 a.m. Out in the desert. When I think of Scott, I think about how much he loved his family, his friends, and how he would do anything for them. And I think about how much he loved being a firefighter. And I remember all of the stories that, you know, whenever we got together, he had a new story to talk about, whatever happened that day or the last shift that he worked. And you could just see it in his eyes that he loved every minute of it. And he was meant to be a firefighter. So, in closing, I just want to say that even that Scott was taken from us too soon, he will live in our hearts forever. And I just want to say to him that I've never had a better friend. I don't think I ever could have a better friend. And I hope he rests in peace. Thank you again for coming out today.
Thank you, Terry. And I don't know exactly what that means, that he takes his campfires pretty serious, but I got a pretty good image of where that might be going, knowing Scott. So it sounds like a lot of fun. We'd like to continue on now with some of our fire service tradition, and I would like to ask Fire Chief Sean Grayson to come up and read the fireman's prayer.
So among the traditions in the fire service, we have a lot. Fireman's prayer has been around a long time. It's not as important what the words are, but what the meaning is. And it's a great honor to be the chief. At least half of you in the room are used to zoning out as soon as I start talking. So if you're going to do that while I'm reading the prayer, think about a wonderful memory about Scott and write it down on one of those cards later today. Throw it in that jar. When I am called to duty, God, whenever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently put the fire out. I want to fill my calling to give the best of me, to guard my friends and neighbors and protect their property. And if according to your will, I must answer death's call, bless with your protecting hand my family, one and all. Thank you.
Ready? Pull. Uncle. Left. Face.
We'd like to share with you another fire service tradition of the fireman's last alarm. The men and women of today's fire service are confronted with more dangerous work environment than ever before. We are forced to continually change our strategy and tactics to accomplish our tasks. But our methods, while they have changed, our goal has not. Our goal remains to save lives, to save property. Sometimes this is done at a terrible cost. However, this is what we do. This is our chosen profession. This is the tradition of a firefighter. The fire services today is ever-changing but deep in traditions over 200 years old. One such tradition is the ringing of the bell. In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled that the beginning of that day's shift had begun. Through day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizens. When the fire was out and all tasks had come to an end, it was the bell that signaled the completion of that alarm. When a firefighter died in the line of duty, paying that supreme sacrifice, it was the mournful toll of the bell that tearfully announced the passing of a fellow firefighter. We utilize these traditions as a symbol to reflect honor and respect for those that have given so much and have served so well. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 3 rings of the bell 3 times, each representing the ends of a firefighter's duty, and that they would be returning to quarters. So today, finally, to our brother, Engineer Scott Schwingel, who gave his life for the good of his fellow citizens. His task is complete. His duties are done. To Scott, this is his last alarm. He is going home.
Uniform personnel, attention! So Terry and Matt spoke to it the best, that this would be the spot that Scott wanted to be. Right, Steph? He's with all his friends. He's with his Steelers. You know, he's at the track. And Terry, like you said, if it was Scott's choice, there'd be someone up here chugging 2 Coors Lights, right? Like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and chucking them out into the crowd. And we'll get to that, but I think this is where he wanted to be. What a venue. And it's right up Scott's alley. He didn't want tears. He didn't want sorrow. You know, he wanted us to celebrate with him. And so that's what we're here to do. Scott's been rubbing this Pittsburgh Steelers in on me for like 15 years. I'm from Cleveland, and so I'm a Browns sufferer. And the list of consecutive wins right now is the only thing that comes close to the list of people who helped put this together. I mean, the outcry and the outpouring of people who volunteered to be here or be a part of it or to help is just a testament to speak to, you know, why Scott was chosen by his peers to be our 2017 Firefighter of the Year. You know, his courage, his tenacity. It's just like Matt said, it really represented what Buckshot Strong is all about. The resilience he showed, it was and still is an inspiration to many of us. And the strength of his family, Steph, you and the kids, has been nothing short of amazing. And it's been a real catalyst to help us through and to help galvanize our organizational family through this. So we thank you for that. Those closest to Scott knew that he was fighting hard to still be at work just a few months ago when his gear weighed more than he did. Now, Scott didn't have an ounce of quit in him. I find myself, especially lately, drawing from that strength. A short example of that is that every day when I show up to work, I put everyone's name who's on duty on an accountability board. It helps us track our resources. Well, Scott was on our shift, and so his name stays with mine as a reminder and to watch over our crew. No, you can't start. Sorry, I saw my wife. It was going good till then. But, you know, Scott's name stays with mine on my board. And it doesn't only help to watch over us, it serves as a reminder to keep us focused. I'll share a story. Last Saturday, I got up early for work, as I normally do, to play with my puppy. I mean Maddie's puppy. And as I get down to play with her, I hear that distinct sound in the background of a broken sprinkler head. And a lot of you have heard that before. I said, okay, we're off to a good start. So I fix the sprinkler, hustle to work, get one foot in the door, and Kevin tells me, hey, by the way, we had a little sewage problem at the station from nearby construction. We might have to relocate the crew. Okay. And then Captain Gardner comes in with a great idea that, hey, let's get ahead of schedule and get our wildland pack test done today. All right, no problem. You know, and I'm looking at the Saturday morning staffing nightmare, and it's still 6:45. I'm trying to get through my cup of coffee. And I figured it's going to be one of those days. And so, you know, Kevin goes home, and I start setting up my accountability board, and I see Scott's name as I do every time when I come to work. And I could almost visualize the smirk on his face, and I could hear the thing he used to say to me all the time when he was my engineer, and it was just, suck it up, fat boy, and get through it. And I stopped, I smiled, and I paused, and you know, it really helped me get through the moment, and I draw on that lately. The same can be said for the pictures we have around the stations or the stories we tell around the kitchen table at work. Scott surely won't be forgotten, but these little moments help serve as a reminder that he's still with us. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for these moments, but today I'm most thankful that Stephanie, Robbie, Austin, Bella, and the rest of Scott's family let us share this moment. I'm grateful that we have an opportunity to let his family and friends know how much he meant to us. So, just like the tag in our unit and the stories we share, we wanted to give your family a small reminder of what he meant to us, and hopefully when you're having a bad day, you can look to it and it picks you up like it does for us. Jake and Ryan have several engraved axes representing that we're going to present to Bella, Robbie, and Austin. And Stephanie, I'm going to be the last one to try and pry that flag away from you anytime soon, because I know that's going to work. But we do have a shadow box that we created just to house that flag for it to live in for eternity. We put the flag from his station that we lowered this morning and got saluted by his peers in it for safekeeping. And hopefully it'll get you through a tough time like his stories, his name, do for us. So we're going to have plenty of time today to lift a glass and tell Scott stories. But for now, I'll turn it back to Matt and then to the honor guard so we can get out to the track. Thank you.
We will now turn this back over to the honor guard as we escort the family out of the building. If we could all just wait until they have left, and then we will all follow along with them.
Attention!
Everybody follow the